This just came in today from George Waters, the progress he's making on the A26. And I'm really hoping I can convince him to make a kind of a fun article for Control Line World. I'd be willing to help him with whatever I can, of course. But this really has turned out for George to be a very nice project, and he's really moving right along on it. Now this is the spare wing that I made for Mike. He's got the carbon fiber body already. And I'm not sure, he's got a bunch of questions in this email, and I want to answer them, of course. And he's got a whole bunch of, maybe 3/4 of a set of DVDs of building it, so I can't imagine there's too many questions left unanswered. Oh, this brings back a lot of memories. Good memories at A26. Boy, that was a fun plane to have. And thanks to the magic of video, anytime I want to see it fly again, I can just go right back, plug in any one of a whole bunch of videos, even the Nats ones, even the World Championship ones. And George, I'm sure yours is going to fly just as good. And video is such a wonderful thing when you have these memories, and this certainly is turning out to be one of them, and we'll look forward to seeing if George is going to do up an article for Control Line World. Now as you get ready and pack up stuff for the Build-a-thon, we got to get the car loaded, of course. The next thing is we got to go get Rich Oliver, and don't leave him by the airport. Don't you hate when they leave you by the airport? Anyway, we've been massaging our drawings the last couple days, as we always are, looking at our original Testarossa. And one of the things we want to do is, because we're going to be building, we hope we're going to be able to build 3 more of these wings up at the Build-a-thon, which will be the next thing we do. One of the things we really wanted to do is look back at this and find all the little things we could correct. Now, one of the things I had spoken to Dave about, and we made up some real nice wing skins. One of the things we want to do is make sure we get all the seams sanded out, and I think you can see that this ship has already had a whole year of service, a pretty rough year in fact. Been out in the Houston sun, been out in the Muncie sun. That wing is really one of the best, maybe the best that I've ever made. But I want to build on it. I want to try to make it better. Now one of the things we're going to look at is when Rich Jacobone gets his, and I think he already has them, the plug-in landing gear as a possibility for the future. We also want to look at the possibility on this, the 90 ship, some different, well, the exhaust coming out in the front, possibly a different channel in the back where the pipe would be. Want to leave some room in case we want to come up with some different exhaust systems. But the trick here is always to build on what we've already done. And I would rate this as a relatively successful plane. I'm glad that we have it all on video, because there's certainly people have learned from it or taken some information from it. But we want to start to push. Now the push on the envelope is for this, where are we going to take this? Now with the 90, the shorter nose, tail a little bit higher, wing in a little bit different position, we're hoping we're going to be able to push this just to the next level. And if we can't, the nice thing is to have last year's plane as in a pretty nice shape. I think this actually would go right back in the front row. We really can be a little more aggressive about pushing the envelope, where if this were the only plane we ever had and last year's plane was already obsolete or we had some problem with it, well, that wouldn't be possible. So we're in the position of like a football team that has a star quarterback, and we're going to draft another young kid that looks like he's got a lot of potential. And you can define that potential however you want. You can say to yourself, well, who needs a 90? Let's use a 40. There's all kind of responses, but we're hoping. And you don't know that you're going to succeed unless you take some of these chances. And I think this is one of the chances that's going to pay off. I think this is one of the draft choices. Be like drafting Peyton Manning. It paid off. But time will tell. Rich Oliver's due up here this afternoon, so we're going to try to go get him at the airport. It actually is almost a flyable day. It stopped raining. It looks like it may clear up this afternoon. We may even get him. One of our goals here is while he's up here for the next 5 days, get him to take a couple flights on a 90 ship just for his own feedback and information. Now, some people always rate a plane, how successful it is, by how many trophies it wins or where it places in this contest or that contest. And over the years, I've gotten totally away from that. The way I rate this plane is it's been unique to build, fun, it's kept me up at night. It flew good right off the board. It looks like if we have to fly it again next year, it's got a lot of years left of service in it. And as a little special bonus, we got into the top 5 for the 18th or 19th time. So, but that wouldn't be enough for me. I want to push it further. And I want, now this is the first 90 ship, period, that ever flew in a walk or fly off. No matter what happens from this point on, that's never going to change. But I also want to have the second one. So I have a little goal. I'd like to get the first, the second, maybe even the third 90 into the top 5 fly-off. And we'll see where that's going to go. That's a whole separate issue. We got a lot of things to work on before we go to get Rich Oliver at the airport. Now in today's mail here, as I go through the mail, try to get the last mail out before we go get Rich Oliver here. Here's a couple of things, and this is one of the things. This is Ramo Bark, Sweden. This is his plane, and he sent me some pictures to look over and see if I can make some recommendations, or make some things that may make his next plane or this plane better. Now, I'm looking at this. Remember the first time he sent pictures, problem was he had no horn bushings for whatever reason. Now he's changed that, modified that. That's an upgrade. And the horn bushings at a brass tube are one way to do it. But I'm going to mail you, Ramo, I'm going to mail you some of our eyelet bushings that I think are just a little bit better. Now, but here's the reason for doing this. As I get the next picture out, let me show, because now I can make recommendations of things that I think would be better. I can see how, now, of course, this solder joint should always be, as well as this one, all stay-bright solder. Stay-bright. No other solder. Because of the low melting point, and because it's about 10 to 12 times stronger than ordinary solder, much better. So if you don't have some, Ramo, you need to just let me know and I'll get you some. Here's a problem already I see. Now see, here's a big problem, in fact. This piece of wire is going to interfere with this horn. When this horn drops all the way back, this is going to be an interference fit here. Now I'm going to email him today and let him know that this is something I think he might want to improve before he goes to the next step. Now just picture, this is why we share photos. We're always looking for these little things, and I needless to say, I can't jump on a plane and go to Sweden, and Ramo can't bring the plane here, but this is some way that we can help each other. This is one way we can. This piece of wire here is just too short, and there's going to be a problem, and I don't know if he already knows that. Once you go to move these controls, it's going to rub up there, and you don't want to pull the wire out of the horn to avoid that. That's not a good choice either. So already we've found something that we can put in the bank. Okay, here's the Straton. It's a Strega. It's a Brodak Strega kit. Here's the wing in silver. And this is what Joe Adamusco and I always do. Other people do. Anytime anybody feels like, well, Rich Walbridge, we can help each other, but we need photos. We need some DVD, video, something. Okay, that looks real nice. You got the idea. Now, this is what we always suggest. Get some padding, blankets, foam, whatever. The only thing I would do is when I had the wing on a table, all this stuff would be on a table over here maybe or something, because as you turn this around, I can picture leaving one of these and putting a hole in the wing or whatever. Anyway, just some suggestions. Ramo looks like he has the construction of this plane down to a science here, and I suspect this will be, if not his best, one of his best efforts. I see how he's jigged up the fuselage here with 90-degree blocks. And that's certainly one way to do it, as well as using the spine method that we're using on a 90 ship. Showing me his wingtip. Now that's great that he's got it, that you can get the lead outs as far forward. See, this tip shape lends itself to having a nice wide adjustment of lead outs. When you have a sweep in the front or a sweep in the back, you always limit yourself a little bit on where those lead outs can go. You can't really move them up or down, in fact. Flat stab built off the videos. Okay, here he's got, and I'm going with, I'm reading off a caption. This is the flat tail. It looks like he hasn't put the bushings in the stab and elevator yet, but needless to say, that's a good idea. Now here's a good idea right here. As we talk about good ideas, and in this day and age, everybody's got a digital camera. It's like nobody doesn't have a digital camera. And I'm getting this crooked here. I'm trying to focus in. The little carbon fiber things to hold the tubes on, you always want to have that. You want to have some way. He's got the little brass things in here holding it on. You want to have this confined and in some kind of a bushing. Another view of that, and I'm just going to assume, Ramo, that you're putting the bushings in also. Now the good news is when you have a flat tail, this notch doesn't deteriorate the strength at all because you have the grain going tip to tip. Some nice hinge pockets. And because Ramo and I speak on a phone pretty regularly, I'm hoping this stuff is going to all these little upgrades are going to kind of help them out. But it's not only Ramo. Anybody that would like to do this. Now see, if you take a picture like this, here's a good idea. Get a dark colored towel. A black towel, dark green. Something for a background. It just makes the picture a little bit easier to see and look at some of the little issues that may or may not be there, if that's what you're trying to do. Okay, now we're getting into the serious spot of this. Ramo's building his fuselage using, and one of many methods. Now we've used the spine method. This is an okay way of doing it, where you tack down all these 90-degree blocks to the table. I believe, but I'm not sure because I haven't built an impact, that Paul Walker does something like this. It lets everything line up at 90 degrees, which is nice, but you still want to have that one nice flowing curve and not have this turn into kind of a starving horse. Okay, Ramo's got the nose construction with the engine pads. It's another view of how he's laid out the nose. And again, every once in a while you can just come across this and see something that could be better. It looks like he's done a nice job of getting the 1/2-inch wood between the mounts, grain going side to side. Most important part of that. I like to make sure every step of the way that I've got my 90 degrees so I don't have what amounts to be a banana. And again, there's always, and anybody that tells you differently, I'm always suspect. There's a lot of ways. You can buy that fuselage jig that Bob Hunt's dad either invented or developed, and that's an expensive thing. But a lot of people, it's worked well for a lot of people. There's no reason not to have it if you have the money. This way works good too. Paul Walker's way works. The way with the spine works. And I don't even know who invented the spine way, but Lou Dudkin, Glenn Metter, and Les and I, we all used to use the spine method 20 years ago. So here's another nice picture. This is an excellent idea. Hooking the mounts back. Now you also could take some of this wood out this way if you wanted to. Again, he's got the stress riser killed off down here. Another good thing. So it looks like Ramo's picking up a lot of good stuff off the DVDs, and which is of course the idea. Again, you could trim some of this back. Just get maybe 4 or 5 grams of weight out of there. But again, not critical. The Strega wing easily carries 70 ounces with no problem at all. And if you have a Rojet in there, believe me, it's not going to be underpowered. Now Ramo was asking me that a question, I remember speaking to him on the phone, that the kit fuselages are a 1/4 inch shorter than the plans. I don't think that's going to matter at all, but obviously you could change it if you wanted to. That little amount is not going to mean anything. You could extend it here, it shows in the plans. But again, that little amount I don't think is going to mean anything. Now, as you may or may not know, Ramo in Sweden, he just moved. This is the new house. at Halvagen, and I hope I'm saying it right. One of the things he likes about the house, he has a big garden. It looks like there's apples up on the trees there. And I always like sharing the personal aspect of this. Just run through these pictures real quick. I like to see, you know, just what kind of environment you have in Sweden. I've never been to Sweden, so shame on me. Oh, here he says, and I'm reading the captions, he does have apple trees. Well, Ramo, we're jealous. This looks like a nice backyard. You got a lot less grass to mow. Needs a pond. Here's the deal. I'm not sure that's going to happen. Anyway, front view of the house. And I asked Ramo to share this kind of stuff with us. We like to share our vacations. We like to share everything. Now, how many people, and among my subscribers, maybe some people like me have never been to Sweden, but it puts a face on. You know, control line flying is something people do all over the world, not just in the United States. They do it in Israel. They do it in Sweden. They do it in every country in Europe. Japan, Singapore, China. It's a worldwide, in Ukraine. In fact, it's hard to find countries that don't have somebody. This is the play hut. I guess his kids have a play hut. This is his garage. It looks like he's got a little like a Windstar kind of car there. Not sure what kind of car that is. The view from the garage. Now, I always pictured Sweden until Ramo and I got to be close friends, as it snowed 12 months of the year. That shows you what I know. Glad I'm not a tour guide. But anyway, as we share these things, you get to know people in different parts of the world. And the one thing you find out in common, if people enjoy control line or control line stunt even better, we really have a lot of things in common. We have a lot of things to share. And I enjoy sharing all of them. Now here's another picture. Let's see. Outside his garage. Now I'm guessing this is a detached garage. This is his terrace, his wife. They're eating out on a terrace. By the way, my wife, when Karen saw these pictures, you know, we're gonna hopefully, if things go right, this time next year be extending the back of our house and making the shop bigger. But we still haven't got an estimate on a price, so it might be 2 years or 3 years. Now I'm looking in here. Look at all the modeling, the racks. And what I really wanted to see, you know, as much or more than the house, I wanted to see how he arranged his shop. Now he sent me pictures here. Number one, the rack, and we just built a new rack up in our attic for, we have the tiger cat and Al's playing up there, among other things. Now this looks almost like a professional, you know, like Rich Oliver's thing, with all racks and tables. Now I'm guessing this is a dedicated building off the house, and it probably has its own heat source. He says in the captions, his hobby shop under construction. Look at this. He's got DeWalt tools, DeWalt, the professional tools. Nice rack. This is one of the things Warren Walker was going to try to get me some magnets to organize my tools. Got to take a break here and get the phone. Okay, that was Dave. He's ready. Everybody's ready here. Anyway, back to Ramo's shop. This is one of the things I think is important now. You would think this isn't important. You would think, oh yeah, if you have a TV, but actually, most people, the thing that they lack at some point in time, they lack inspiration. You get building and building and sanding and sanding, sand and silver especially. You think, oh, this is never going to end. You put a video on, you watch Paul Walker's B-17 fly, and all of a sudden you're rejuvenated. Well, this is what happens to me anyway. Now this is an amazing, to me this is an amazing shop. I haven't gone anywhere near this level of having everything benched and organized. Everything I've done with my shop, believe it or not, I've done on a super shoestring. I don't think we've paid for anything. No dressers got paid for, they were garbage things. The table was a used door. I'm looking around, I'm looking for I bought, well, I don't know. I got a shoestring shop, I guess. But when you build one from scratch, boy, does it make... This is a lot more like Rich Oliver's, where it's a professional modeler's thing. This is nice, too. It looks like he's got flat table surfaces. Now, I'd be interested in knowing how they heat and cool this, if it's air-conditioned. Well, maybe in Sweden you don't need air conditioning. Look at this. He's got a little mill. This is unbelievable. Ramo, I am totally impressed. Believe me, you get me psyched before. And needless to say, where we're going in the next couple days to Midgley's, it's the same thing. Nice picture there. This is nice. Now, again, I'm going to mention Warren Walker had shown me in his shop, he's got a magnet that the tool's just hooked to. We're looking at getting that in the future. Now, here's what I'm talking about being organized. You look at this, and I did this season. I took and cleaned everything up and organized the closet and put all the props in one box and everything. But it's still not at this level. And the fact is that this is all nice and new and fresh. This looks like a piece of granite or marble to build on. And the nice thing about doing a shop, when you spend and it seems like a lot of people don't really realize this, when you spend an hour working on your shop and getting it under construction and shaped up, what happens is, somewhere down the road you save 10 hours. You don't run out of things. You see that you're running out of things because they're organized. You see that, well, you know, my wood supply is getting down, or mine is all stuffed off in a corner here, or whatever. Now, when Dave just called me, now Dave is in the middle of making up these cores, he was out of e-glass. Well, see, in my shop, the e-glass is in a drawer, and I don't get to see it every day. But then I go look there and there's none in there because I realized I used it, or Rich Jacobone used it when he was here, or something. We don't even know. Sometimes I don't even know who's got the tools or the parts. So shame on me. But this is the way I think it should be done. This is kind of like, almost like a Home Depot thing where you have shelves, benches. Here's something I don't really have in my shop as a chair, because I try to stand up as much as possible just for the exercise, if nothing else. Because what used to happen to me over the winter when I do a lot of not very physical hours of the day, I'd start gaining weight. And I still like to eat those pizza pies. Look at this bandsaw. See, now I'm going to have to go cut that top block up that's sitting on the floor. And the problem's going to be, it's a major problem in fact, I don't have a bandsaw. The bandsaw I have has these 3 wheels, and as soon as you go to cut something, the blade jumps off. And I've had 10 different people adjust it. Not one person has ever figured out what... It's just a piece of junk is what it is. Nice wing or tail jig here. That looks like the jig for a wing. Ramo, I really appreciate this, and that's what I need to work on next, is to get my magnets from Warren Walker, get that organized, and I just feel better and better, because then it allows me to do not only more work, but enjoy the work that I am doing. A good shop, an organized shop, just pays for itself, and you don't even realize. It's like making interest in a bank. Every day you get the benefit from it. So again, thanks Ramo, we really appreciate it. That's pretty interesting. We've left this block here. Every day that we leave it here, it gets more and more of the bow taken out of it. And every day about this time I take it out. I go over to the cans, take the cans off, and I see what progress we're making, because this is slated to be a top block. Woo, we almost got it. In fact, we may not need... I'm going to leave it on while we're away anyway. It's still got just a little bow in it. We're going to leave it because we're not going to carve top blocks today. But the way this worked out, it just couldn't be better. This we're actually getting to use a free block in a time when there's very few blocks around. In fact, there's none. This is the best of the ones that I still have from years gone by. But that's a block I don't think I would have been able to salvage or use if I didn't try getting that curve out of it. Well, I pulled the Stuka cowl out this morning. Actually, it looks pretty good. There's a couple edges we didn't get the material to sink down into. We could fill those with Aeropoxy Light. No problem at all. This is much lighter than his other one. And now I just need to trim this all off, Trim away all the extra cloth. I like to do that with a Dremel tool whenever I can. Get in here and get out some of the extra resin out in this area here. And I think this will be ready to, well, he's got to make a new fuselage of all things. Yeah, we got both sides. This area here is really difficult to get to come in just the way you want. But again, that's what's nice about Air Epoxy Light. Now the thing, whenever you're cutting this off, you got to watch. In fact, I'm one step ahead of myself here. Always get off these loose edges, because what happens, if you catch that on a Dremel tool, it tends to pull it. And what happens, you can put a big gouge in a part or something that's real undesirable. This one I'll bet is half the weight of the one we did before, just lighter material. That really is a good safety tip, because a lot of times with a cloth, especially where it doesn't have resin in it, it tends to really catch. And I always have mine. These are nice and neat. I got them from John Gunn years ago. I guess he used to sell scissors. He's sent me a couple dozen parts. Now see, here's what I did. I put the reinforced carbon in the edge. So we got a nice reinforced edge. We got a real nice, this lip here is totally carbon toe. So this should be really nice and structurally good. But again, I get the rough off with a scissor, and these are old scissors. They were new until I got my hands on them. But again, but I really like Ramo's shop, I have to tell you. That's one of my dreams, was always to have a really nice workshop. So you got to realize I spend a lot of hours here, as I guess most of us do. In fact, that's so strong I can't even cut it with scissors. That's really strong. So now we just need to get away with some of this. I remember the first Nobler cowl I did that I had not realized there were some threads like this hanging out, and it just pulled it right out of my hand, threw it across the room. Got my full undivided attention. Actually, that's a pretty nice part. And imagine how many hours of carving that would be. Unbelievable. That would just be a ton of carving. As he drops the part, let me just look and see. That's going to be nice. Now see, this little edge that he left here, I'm sure this gets sanded off eventually once we trim all this off. Now I thought I'd put a good tip on the DVD, and this is really a good tip. If you've got one of these roto-zip things, it's got a button lock. Okay, so you push the button down, you tighten the tool bit up. Now what happened to me already, because this thing is so powerful, see the button didn't jump up? Now if I go hit the switch, it breaks the cable, instantly breaks the cable. So before I go, I make sure I have this button popped up. And make sure I can twist this a little bit, or else what happens, I've had to buy 2 cables already to show you how smart I am.